Following up on our conversations from the Society Fourth series, today we're talking about living together, and I'm talking about it with my guest, Johan de Kleuver. So, Johan, thank you very much for being here today talking about this subject.
It's a very interesting subject, so let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Okay.
Living together, it's a subject that we all have to deal with, and in the Society Fourth context, in which we do everything, all of it together in a new way. Let's talk about it. Johan, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for taking all your knowledge and your wisdom with you today. You've written a book about this subject.
Yep.
This is the book. It's called Social Architecture. And you've done a lot on this subject.
Yes, because when I was in my early 20 years, it's amazing if I look back so young. Me and my partner thought we want to live together, like starting a little village into the city, the city of Haarlem in this case. And because we wanted to have closer relations, not because it's fun alone, because it can be fun, but also to achieve some goals that are hard to achieve when you're living on your own. So that's what we did, and we built a group, and then we developed the project, and I'm living in my dream for 36 years now, and all those years groups who wanted to start something like this came to visit me and to hear some lessons learned, and they ended the conversation asking me what's on paper, and I say nothing, all is here. But yeah, getting into the age that you realize that every life has to end sometimes, and sometimes unexpected, and it would be a pity if all these lessons learned would get lost. So finally, after all those years, I wrote a book about it, really compact, especially for the early phase of starting a project. Read it and learn from it, because I found an article, I think in an American book, why 90% fail. All those initiatives for people who want to start something like this. In my opinion, it's probably 95% fail.
Right.
So that's why I wrote it. Before you start, if you want to start with a group, or you're just in the early phase, please
read the book.
Read the book.
Yeah. And can you tell a little bit of the reasons why 90% of the people who start a communal living in either one way or another, can you talk a little bit about why some of them fail?
Yeah. You can imagine that if I'm receiving this initiative group in our communal room, they sit around the table, and I welcome them and ask the following question, the first question. Will you please introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and secondly, have you decided that you really want to do this with your life? Almost every group, the second part of the question, they make eye contact to each other, like, wow, that's a question. And then I immediately know they haven't talked about it. And then they give the answers, well, that's quite a question. I said, yeah, that's quite a question. And so what is your point now in the process? And almost everybody says, I find it very interesting. And then I think you're not gonna make it. Because it's a hard and long road to go. So before I started in my early 20s by building up a group, I visited all kinds of communities because I wasn't planning to start my own community. We wanted to join, but then we had some mainstreams of communal living, very left-wing politics, on the countryside with growing your own food, giving help to some drug-related groups or whatever, very religious groups, etc.
Right. So ideology was involved.
Yeah, and I found every community we visited very interesting and amazing, but on such a small topic from my point of view, and so very intense. And I had a more broadened perspective, and I thought, oh, there's all kinds of reasons that you can do this with different type of goals. And I didn't want it to be too extreme, and I wanted to be able to live my own private life as well. So we couldn't find the community.
Yeah, because that's a big topic as well, right? Because often when people start to live together, they start to give more of themselves than that they would do in any other situation.
Yes.
If you're a secluded person or a private person, normally, all of a sudden when you have to share, people notice, for instance, when they go on holiday or they go to a camping site, or you see a little bit more of the humanness in each other. And that's all right if it's for 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe even a month. But if it's for the long term, are you really in it?
Different process.
Yeah.
Different process.
Yeah.
That's why it is interesting that you mentioned it, because that's one of the main things I paid attention to, because it was my own need, but also when I saw all these types of groups, and you had to be like 100% committed to the common goal, and like that would be the main thing in your existence. I think, well, I'm studying, I want to build an own company, etc. So I think I want to have a private life as well. So a friend asked me and said, you read about it, you talked about it, you didn't find it. Have you questioned yourself, does it exist in the form you have in your head already, yes or no, in the Netherlands? And immediately I thought, I don't think so. And then he said, well, there's only one thing you can do. Start yourself. And I immediately thought, I have to start myself.
Yeah.
And we did.
And what did you start? What is it? What were the foundations that you started with?
Well, the first thing was that all the knowledge I gathered by reading and visiting existing groups and finding groups who failed, interviewing them, I had like a bullet list with like 7, 8 principles that I think if I'm gonna start something, it has to match these items. And that's like starting with a clear goal and a clear vision. Then I started, me and my partner, started to try to find people who wanted to join this goal and this vision. And so then I was a churchgoer, and we saw a couple which already had 3 children, were like 10, 12 years older than us. I was then like 25, 26. And we started to talk with him, and he says, this is my vision. And if you want to join, you have to meet this perspective I've developed based on research. If you don't like it or so, okay, we're looking for other people. So the vision was clearly the main anchor, what you now call the purpose.
Right. And what was the purpose? What was the vision? What was the goal?
It was starting an intentional community with a broad perspective, like goals on different themes, and like the way I wanted to see a leadership function, like the how large the group would be. So all these kinds of things, I had clear criteria. It should meet this criteria, and if you agree, okay, you can join.
Yeah.
And you can join the community, which is now starting. We are the starting point of the community. If you want to join and you agree, okay, then we have a deal. Of course, there's an extra period that you really get to know each other.
An incubation period.
And then we decide, yes, we're going to do this.
Yes. And how long was this period?
Like a few months.
Okay. Okay.
Really, because it's meeting criteria is like more like the brain side. Really daring to share your life with another is something of the belly, the feeling, and the heart.
Yeah.
So take your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the basic principles was, and a lot of groups don't follow this principle. I always say, take time to build a strong group first, then start to develop the project. Because in a lot of cases, I see that there's a group wanting to do something like it, and they want to do it quick. So they have like 6, 8 members, and they start talking with banks and trying to find a location, etc. But maybe the community will have like 20, 25 people. And they have to join, and then you have it all organized already. And
you have excluded other people by already solidifying with a short group of people. Yeah.
And if you're looking for people really having some power on some aspect, you really need to be competent as a whole. Then you say, sorry, you have to take this not only on the principle or criteria level, but also on an operational level, all this kind of decision making, which has to be done in the very first phase of the development of a project. There are the big decision making.
Yeah.
So I always say, well, that's a big risk. So we had about 80% of the volume we wanted to have in our community was there to decide when we started the first phase of project development. So, and it went very quick. If you do it earlier and you get like really strong people in a later phase, and you have all made this kind of decision, they may not like it, and they start questioning and discussing, and what are you going to say? And most groups do 2 things. One is, okay, we have to do it all over again. But some people say, wow, I thought we're gonna have to develop a project quick. We're gonna start all over again, and it takes a lot of time. I'm gone. Or you have to say, decisions are made, swallow it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
And
you're
then they
gonna
say,
lose the new people who do not fit in the structure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem. So that's what I say, group development first, and then if you have the volume, like 3/4 of the population organized, and very important is all those groups what I mentioned earlier when I asked this question for the first round, who are interested. We started by saying this is our vision. You only can become a member of the group who wants to start with a clear boundary. Then we have the commitment that you really gonna go for it to really realize it.
Yeah.
So the commitment on the front door is high.
Mm-hmm.
If they say, well, I want to talk with you guys and I'm interested in it, then they didn't become members, but we made separate talks with them until the point they decided, I really want to go for it. Then they came in and started to join the group meetings.
Yeah. So what do you think of all these people? Because there's a lot of people who like to live in a way that is not local. They
Yeah.
like to travel around.
Yeah.
We live in a generation where a lot of people say, I don't want to have any attachments
Yeah.
to this society anymore. I'm gonna live in a camper van and I'm
Yeah.
gonna travel and I'm gonna look a little bit here and look a little bit there. And a lot of these people, they gather around workaway stations.
Yes.
And people that they kind of, I see them a little bit as they're looking for, okay, where is my home, where is my place, where
Yeah.
is my tribe, or
Yeah.
where, and these people, they kind of taste a little bit here, they smell a little bit there, and but they don't attach themselves to an idea or an ideology or a purpose that much. They just gradually gravitate to a certain situation, I feel, and they're chipping in.
Yeah.
So whenever they're at some point, they are working together in a group, but they also have the freedom to leave.
Yeah.
And this kind of seems a counter to the way of working that you're proposing.
Yes, but I think my example is an example of an intentional community living together, and by doing that you can achieve some goals. But you can have another more flexible tribe, like the high professional nomads, often in IT or whatever. And they can have like spots, like in Morocco, I read about it, on the beachside, working from 6 in the morning till 12, and then start surfing together, hopping to another side of the world. And they form like a tribe, and they can be some kind of community, like it's a kind of lifestyle. And that's okay with me. Interesting, maybe, I always promote that every intentional community with the form we've chosen, like really living together and staying together, I promote build some apartments where people move in, move out.
Right.
Because that's like oxygen for the group. If you have like a group with a number of people and they don't change, the risk of getting fed up with each other and knowing each other so long, and you don't surprise each other and you think, oh, that's him, oh, that's her. So it's like
a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and in a water metaphor, it's like still standing water.
Yeah, stagnant water.
Yeah. I like the flow of water.
Yeah.
I live along the riverside in Haarlem. Great, always a flow. So what we did, we have 18 apartments in our community. 5 apartments are for people staying for us to a maximum of 4 years. And normally we give them to always some of the apartments go to younger people trying to find out how does this work. And some apartments we give to people who need some support with the perspective they will profit from this and go on. So not people who need help lifetime long, because then we can't say, okay, you have to go.
Yeah.
But people who have a terrible divorce or something like that. And there's always new dynamics, and all those people who stayed with her in this like 36, 7 years now, I think it might be like 120 to 130 people who stayed for us for this period of 4 years and learned a lot and did a lot with it.
So what you're saying is almost like a yin and yang situation, that you have the people who are there long-term committed for one type of goal. It goes hand in hand with the nomad people who enter your community, who bring new ideas, who bring new knowledge.
Exactly.
And you expect them to leave after a certain time as well.
Yeah.
And the divorce of that is also happening in harmony.
Yes, that's special because we have in the Netherlands, like if you rent a room to someone, he is legally entitled to stay there. So that's a problem for us because we want them to leave.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have to leave and they don't have such a great place to live then that they have to give up. So easily they could say, sorry, I'm staying.
Yeah.
And then we have a problem.
Yeah, because the Dutch law, for instance, it gives them rights to stay in a certain spot because the fact that they are staying there for a while gives them legal rights to stay there for longer. You cannot just exit them in a...
Although there's a change, if you have a contract like we have, the lobby for changing this legal demands, there are some developments because we work with, first you have to be a member of the community, and only members of the community can rent a room or well, we have a buy construction as well. You don't buy the building in concrete, but like the right to use it.
Right.
We call it.
It's like a corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a two-step process legally. Become a member, sign for it, and members. You can say you can only be a member if you accept this. And then you can rent like a place for the people who change.
Sure. Yeah.
So we never have to use it to come for a judge and give our argument. But I know from one case in the Netherlands at least that some cooperation had the same construction, and the judge decided for the first time, no, you have to leave. So that's interesting because there are two conflicting legal systems then.
Yeah.
So I think this will be changed because it's needed in these kinds of new forms of living together.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we know that the legal systems always, they are at least 10 years behind of what the society is going through.
Yeah.
So there's interesting developments happening, and at the same time there's people pushing the boundaries of how we really want things to happen. At the same time, the Netherlands is in a severe housing crisis.
Exactly.
There's even more need for temporary housing than there is for long-term housing in big cities, for instance.
It's a great problem.
Yeah. it's an interesting idea that you're working on this, and you're in the position of society the fourth.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious what your mission. You've told us a lot about your background,
Yeah.
how you came to this, your idea. So basically, you're a man of who learned by doing.
Yeah.
And that makes you a great expert by experience.
You can say that, yes.
Yeah, and my question to you now is then, how does this work in the concept of society fourth? What is a new way of doing things? Because me, for instance, I'm thinking about moving to a new spot and starting something on my own.
Yeah.
But there might be people watching right now who are living in an urban environment in their own situation. Yeah. Are there principles that you can just stick by, like say like, okay, find in your community, find that common purpose, and I mean that's a quite a basic one.
Yeah.
But then what is next, and what does the society fourth? How does it inspire people to continue? There's a lot of questions all in one.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can divulge a little bit on that.
There's one thing based on the earlier part of our conversation, so that's in my head, so I will say that first. If you want to start some kind of community, and I see it like the intentional communities are quite intense. Maybe the form of the monks is a little bit more intense.
Right, like a monastery.
Yeah, like a monastery. But there are forms of community forming less intense. And so you can make a concept with diversity, as long if you don't have the form like we chosen, one building, all the doors are opened from the inner street. So it's a really safe place. When you come into our building, it's like almost everybody leaves the door open of your own apartment. So that's quite intense and quite sharing private share rooms. But if you design it somewhat else, you can have a diversity on a continuum with different needs. And in fact, I'm starting like hopefully this year by getting a new concept going, where we have larger projects with like about 100 to 200 apartments. And my vision is then, let's find people who think a socially dynamic environment inspires me. I have my own place, I rent it, I don't have to come to meetings, but it's a great place to live here. Then I want to find groups who want to start as a community, but it's such a long way and so difficult. Probably you will belong to the 90-95% who fail. You can come in our big structure. So I want to plot like 3-4 groups who get a cluster of apartments together, maybe have a front door communal, have some communal room within their cluster, but are open to others as well.
So how does this look practically? Are we talking about an existing
building? Starting new.
So you're building a new apartment building? Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
And that apartment building is its architecture is based upon a new form of living.
Yes.
And what is this apartment building then has a private space, and it is based upon the fact that it has an open door, or a door that perhaps can lock, but it's designed to not be locked constantly. If I'm trying to imagine your ideas. Yeah.
Idea is everybody has his private place, and you can lock your door. I can lock my door, only I hardly never do, most of the times, my wife, more than I, closes when we are weeks away, like 3 weeks in Italy,
Yeah.
we lock our door.
Yeah.
Normally, I leave my door open
Yeah.
because it's a safe place within the building. But in this concept, bigger, then I say every private apartment has always a lock on the door. You can always decide lock it or not. Then if you have such a communal cluster, then in my vision, there is some door for the community to open within the big structure. And from there you can go to separate apartments. You can decide within this cluster, leave it open, or you can decide. But it's the door of the cluster is closed, and you can only open the door if you are a member of this community. But I think it's an interesting thing because you have different kinds of people. Like I chose for this form, you have a vision what you want to do, and if you say, well, I want to have a little bit more control, what's happening? Okay, in my vision in the structure, maybe you wanted an apartment not belonging to a specific cluster, but really want to interact with these kind of people.
Yeah.
Because I want clusters with a different identity, like another theme they are good in. And I expect them to get connected, not only between these clusters, but also with the surrounding. And then the ground floor and the first floor, in my vision, is interacting with the community around them. And that's like a social engine for a wider environment, inviting people, getting a place to meet, flex workspaces, workshops, run those teams.
Right. A kitchen.
Of course,
Community
you
kitchen.
have to eat together. If you want to start to connect to people,
Yeah.
you have to start eating together.
There's this great example. I had an interview with Ruben Hansen, who's someone who's very interested in architecture, and he looks upon different examples in the world on different types of architecture and how we build together.
Yeah.
And one particular course that we spoke about is how we live in ugly buildings, and when we change the community function of a certain place, of a certain area, then all of a sudden the beauty becomes more important again, because it then becomes important that the communal space also becomes an area that you feel that feels habitable, that it's not only about your own individual apartment where you live 80% of your life.
Yeah.
It's also that when you step outside the door, that all of a sudden that also feels at least the same amount of welcoming for you. So a great example that he gave was Le Plaisir Robinson in France. They started demolishing the outskirts of a city. I think it's an outskirt of like a suburb of Paris.
Yeah.
And they started tearing down the old
Yeah.
apartment block buildings,
Yeah.
the concrete ones, and they started having little waterways and little towns where you can have a shop and
Yeah.
a newsstand and all of these things. And it seems that all of these old communal habits of a village,
Yeah.
of the things that you would have, for instance, maybe church life is a little bit outdated, but
Exactly.
you might want to have a space where people go to yoga at a certain
Exactly.
place, or any of those kind of things. It seems that those really become important.
I think that's a main topic within Society 4.0, 0.0.
Yeah.
Because the motto is back to the future. So, or what I like to say, reinventing the commons. So that's communal living in some areas where people want to build the kind of society and the kind of world they really enjoy. So if you visit our community, the beauty and the most expensive things are found in the communal room. Like we have really beautiful Italian lamps, lights above the table. The most expensive you can find in the whole building. The biggest and best TV screen, used yesterday again to see soccer together, is in the community room with a movie channel, with a sport channel, etc. We have people living in a community, living from a real low income. They can share with all those communal wealth. We have high-tech room with all the exercise stuff.
Yeah. Can we maybe look at some pictures? Can we look it up? Are there some things online that we can look at?
Our communal community, the website of our community.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's in Dutch.
But can we look at some pictures so people get an idea of what we're talking about?
Looking it up now?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? We can.
Oh.
We can. All right. So this is the website of your
community.
Yeah. What are we looking at? This looks like a normal apartment, but for instance, this one.
So where you see the people with the food is our communal room.
Yeah.
And okay, this is a part of our inner street. All the apartments have their door, and you see it's a big space, like art things in it. We wash together 3 machines for 18 households. This is a private apartment. There's a communal room outside where we can eat and join together.
And this is all one building?
Yeah, this is also in the inner street, like a shared books and papers. We have a chapel here. Okay, this is also the outer space where we can join. This is our communal room with a big kitchen. Every apartment has its own kitchen, so it's all extra.
Right.
These are the rooms of the people who have to move out after 4 years. They sleep here. You see the stairs. They can sleep here, and they have the whole room. They have an outside platform. They can really sit in the sun because it's built to the south side. This is our whole apartment, and this higher part are the offices. Like 4 layers, 2 offices per layer. All the communal functions are here, and in the rest of the building are all the apartments. This is the inner street.
So did you hire an architect for this, or was this...
you see it from the air view.
This middle one, yeah. Let's see if I can zoom in that a little bit.
And you see the solar cells also.
Yeah. Are you self-sustaining, or are you on the grid?
Well, now we are on the grid. It's a part. We just had quite a renovation to have solar cells also on the northern oriented rooftops, and we're just finding out if it works like that. We are producing enough energy, but now we have the problem that you have to have big batteries if you have a lot of sun in the summer. So that will be the next step, how to keep the energy in the summer up to into the winter. That's really a problem. But this market is innovating in a very fast speed.
Definitely, yeah.
So we have to do that probably in 2 or 3 years.
Would it be easy for your community to go off grid?
I don't know. That's if you have a building of this age, everything is more difficult than that you develop it from the ground up.
Of course, yeah.
So but we are well on our way, being very sustainable.
Yeah.
When we build this, all the rooms oriented to the south are all glass. The northern side, the street side, is really closed, small windows, so it's passive use of sun energy.
Yes.
And from the beginning, we were very, very good in all the scores of being low use of gas and electricity, etc.
Yeah.
But still, if you build now, you build it totally different than we did.
Yeah.
And you can't rebuild it.
No, of course, and every age has its own architecture style, of course, yeah. And
but
their
in
own
all
ideas.
the rooms we use, we have now triple glass, for example.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money
Yeah.
to redo it all.
Yeah.
So, but we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. So, and this is, of course, the concept. So you've built it all into practice. You brought it all your experience and all your ideas and everything that you already put in this book. You're living it. You're actually you're constantly refining things.
Yes.
What are some of the issues that you're still dealing with, or some of the things that you're finding? Okay. This is still something that we need to figure out how to do for the future, or perhaps the future is changing in such a way that we need to adapt to. Are there anything like...
Well, for my own community, I have a rather empty agenda, luckily. Because if we start feeling only 3 members, not from the same household, have to feel some like, is this going well? We always do it so, but shouldn't we, etc. And they find out, these 3, then they have the obligation to make it a point of discussion. It happens like around between 6 or 8 years in our history that something like this happens, and we tune everything. Everything is again, point of discussion. Do we want to go under this? Yes or no? So that's why we keep on track with the new members, etc. And they feel more interesting motivation and ownership.
Yeah, intrinsic motivation. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that there's a cleaning system.
Yes.
In the model, it's built in, and there's no taboos.
No taboos. More. Also, we talk about the things we really know. We are doing this for more than 30 years, and we value it. And of course, this will keep on. We will keep on doing this. We don't exclude this from the agenda. Everything has to be a yes from the community saying, okay, because that's a renewal on everything.
Yeah.
And that's really the most safe form. Yeah. So my agenda for my own community is a clean sheet.
Yeah.
But for communal living, like all the talks I have with projects who want to start, and I joined networks like in the Netherlands CoopLink and other forms of cooperation on network based, and like Society 4. There's so much to do that has to be done to make cooperative living more easy, because it's really, really hard to start something like this, because all of these stumbling blocks you have to overcome. And I sometimes really get mad, and but like the last 3 years, I see a growing curve, like a growing movement and growing political lobbying. And just very recently, there's someone from our like the second chamber of our political system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
our government representatives.
They brought in a new law to make it easier for cooperatives, and not only for living together, but also for energy sharing, sure, and etc. Yeah. To make it much more easy to start, because we have like a system based on you're either in the living together domain, you buy or you rent, but there's the third way, like sharing a space together. That's a cooperative sphere.
Yeah.
And I see now a growing awareness that banks, government, on the legal side, there should be specific regulations based on this third way, we call it. And it's starting to grow really rapidly because it can have a very big contribution to solve this idiotic crisis we created ourselves.
It's interesting because I've lived in an apartment building in Amsterdam for I think like 40 years, and it was a corporation when I started living there, but it had to transform legally into an owners association, and the reason was not because the people wanted it to be changed. The reason was that the banks who are funding it, they didn't support that way of living anymore. And so that's why the legal way it had to be changed. But organizationally, I always looked at the corporation form as a better form.
Exactly.
Things are more. Things can be organized in a better way, in a much more way that fits with the needs of the people who inhabit the building.
I always say it's by the people, for the people. So simple as that. It's a basic democracy. And I'm a big promoter of it. But you have all those hesitant reactions, especially from the financial side. Still, there's a break.
Why is that?
They're not used to it. They see big risks. They say, well, we hear about these groups and then they get into trouble with each other, and we don't understand how this works. And there's so many things. And for a part, they are right. But you can organize it in such a way that it is safer than other forms. It's big in Germany, it's big in Austria, it's big in Switzerland, because they have a tradition there. And because there's a big tradition there, and all those communities contribute to a collective cooperative fund who helps to start new projects. So that's my vision as well, to start such a fund in the Netherlands as well, because as soon as you can fund your own project with this kind of funds, like for 30-40%, then the risk profile drops dramatically, and a financial partner like a bank is more thinking about, okay, we can join this is safe. Because if they start getting problems, we can lean on that amount of money and own it partially. So that's safer. Yeah. And then rates for the loan start dropping a bit.
Yeah.
So that's why it's such important that in a community as a whole, like in Germany or Austria, they have this very long historic traditions. But in the Netherlands, they had these traditions by the corporations.
Yes, yeah.
And they blew it up.
Yes.
And it still amazes me how a social democratic institution in the Netherlands has been demolished within 20 years by the liberal governments. On this aspect, I really hated them. Because the most weird thing, because of course the money for this corporation has to come from the government. And what did they think on some point? Let's tax them for the amount of apartments they have in their possession.
Yeah.
Well, put a hole in my head, because it's so strange. It's their own money they're putting. And so what happened? All those corporations who should build, especially for the lower incomes, couldn't build enough because they get taxed by the government.
Yeah. It's a strange thing, but in some form I understand it because I like the idea of ownership.
Yeah.
And I think there's ownership is because it gives you a lot of clear rights. If you own something, you can do with it what you want. And in a corporation form, you only own the right of usage.
Yeah.
And you don't own the exact thing. And so I've told you already, I'm thinking about, or not I'm thinking, I'm planning to go.
You're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it, yeah. I'm going down south, to the south of Europe. And I'm gonna find a place where I want to buy a piece of land on my own name. And I would like to develop this with a community of people that I would like to invite. And I would love it if people come and share their part in it. And I can see a lot of good ideas with having some people staying long term and other people passing through.
Yeah.
But this is this is a similar system as what you're proposing. Although I would want to do it everything under my own name, everything under my own.
Okay. You want to have control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it's your money.
Yes.
Okay, you're the boss.
Yes.
I did not want to be a boss.
I see.
I chose for a basic democracy because I wanted to be part of such a social construct which I really prevail above almost all kinds of dominance over each other. Still, I cheer your initiative because it's a step in getting together, doing things together, achieving together more than you can be on your own. So I'm immediately your supporter.
Yeah.
Still, I'm maybe my ways of thinking are a bit more extreme on this point. Because sometimes things might happen that I don't approve completely or don't like that much. Still, I'm just a member.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
so
that's just what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that I see it is that dominance isn't evil. Dominance is just it's a way of taking position.
Yeah.
It's a way of holding it up, and I don't think that there is necessarily a problem in that, because most people they like to live in a form of harmony.
Yeah.
And whenever you have somebody that has the dominance to provide that structure, then things will organize themselves in a way that people and animals and any other kind of life forms will want to live in it.
Yeah.
So, but I understand, and I applaud you for your democratic heart, and I really understand it. But I also see a lot of I see a lot the way that things can go a lot slower, and I see
Exactly.
that things can
That's the price you have to pay.
yes. And so, for instance, I've been in a group before where we were talking about maybe buying a piece of land, all of them together, and then all of a sudden there's this question of, okay, this person wants to have a particular kind of saffron plant, and they want to make a whole installation about that.
Yeah.
And another person wants to have a chicken farm and
Yeah.
all of that. All right, but how do we make sure that it's organic? If we put in the description that you're allowed to farm whatever you want to do, how do you stick to the rules? What exactly are the rules that you can
Yeah,
do?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
how do we make sure that those rules not become dogmatic? How do we make sure that you keep the energy flow? And I found this to be so. Uh, I found this to be so constricting in a way,
Yeah.
because you have to think about everything. You have to really
I agree.
mentally clear the path for everything that could happen on a lot of possible situations.
Yeah.
While if you're doing it the way where you're saying like, okay, I am I'm a shepherd
Yeah.
for all of the processes
Yeah, yeah.
that
That's
want
a good
to
metaphor
take
for
place.
yourself.
Yeah, well,
You look like a shepherd.
I only need a staff.
Get one.
A caretaker.
Yeah.
If I'm a caretaker for all of the processes that want to develop
Yeah.
themselves. Once I see that a process goes sideways,
Yeah.
then I say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And if you have to, at that point, have to confer with everybody who says, no, I think it will work,
Yeah.
and I think you get a battle of different processes, and I can understand why you say, well, this is why you need a really good foundation
Exactly.
for all of the people that you're working
That's the
with.
main reason. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're quite right.
Yeah.
That's why the selection process is the most dominant process of all,
Yeah.
in my vision.
Yes.
You really have to be very careful at the front door who's coming in.
Yeah. And you said that this group of people, it needs to be around 20 people, 25?
That depends on what kind of construct you're aiming for.
Yeah.
So in your vision and dream, there are probably other mechanisms available than in the form I developed, because I always talk about the amount of people, like between 30, 40 adults, and then maybe some temporary members and children, a mix of 50, that's about the limit. Because if it starts to get bigger, then based on agenda points with decision making, you get subgroups lobbying, organizing themselves, and within this more smaller groups, you can keep it together. That's just a law of numbers.
Yeah.
So that's why I made a point of that, and it works exactly like I designed it.
Yeah.
But like exactly what you said, if you think, oh no, I don't find it is okay, and you're the boss, you can say, no, in this case, no. Then you can't be passed by a majority, even if it would be a majority, say, we do want it. You say, no, we're not going to do it. I don't allow it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it, start your own project.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah.
So I have to work with other principles.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you said. It's a safe key for you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I would say if you live in a, let's say, a village format,
Yeah,
you can have all these different ideas, you can have them next to each other, right? So
exactly.
if you say, okay, start your own project,
Yeah,
and you can also at the same time say, the property next door is available,
yeah.
then
Join as a neighbor.
yes, yeah, and
Yeah,
then people who are similarly in mind but different in execution can still work together.
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, and you can, of course, make processes where there is a basic democracy within the boundaries of principles and shared goals. And you say, as long as there is no principle conflict, then I don't have to interfere.
yeah,
Only, like, I'm only boss in extreme cases.
right,
Okay?
yeah,
It's all possible.
yeah,
You can design it the way you can. And then it will be like a mixed form with this option for you at the end of the day.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because now I'm thinking a little bit in scales, right? Because
Yeah,
so I'm thinking like, okay, let's say that you have this village with all these
yeah,
different ownerships
yeah,
of different. All of a sudden, you get a township.
yeah,
You get, and then you're like, okay, we have one common road,
yeah,
and then we have to work together
yeah,
to get that road.
exactly.
So you kind of get a similar structure. It's just you get it in a larger scale than what you're proposing is where you get it in an apartment building.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that is also my motivation to not to get involved too much with smaller, like I call our community a small project.
Right.
That's why I'm working now with the network Join Commons, trying to build bigger structures because I think that has a lot of potential because you have this continuum and you can have different kinds of people still living together in another way. And I find it very interesting. Again, a larger scale is like a little village.
Mm.
A lot of years ago, I saw a program about this socialistic village in Spain. I don't know if you heard about it, but
No, but please tell.
there's a really basic socialism where the mayor started it, and if you want to build your own house there, it's all provided by the community, like the bricks, and you get all the materials, etc. You have to build it yourself. Of course, there are people in the community who can advise you and check it, etc. But the materials are free because they were given by the community, and they work for a part on the land. They have like an economic system as a community to work together on different aspects, sell it to the outside capitalistic market, get income, do new things with it.
Right.
Have a shared income policy, etc. It's like a dream for me. On this scale, it's like heaven on earth. Because and they have these big meetings if they have to make decisions for the whole community. They have all those members from people who represent a certain amount of people, like a little government, but very basic democracy.
Yeah.
And they talk about things and talk, and then they try to find an agreement where everybody says, okay, we can do that. We don't have a strong objections. So I think they decide mostly, what I remember, with the consent. You don't have to approve it. You don't. You only have. You shouldn't have a strong opposement argument.
Right. Yeah.
And it works for so many years. So I think it's great.
Would you describe yourself as a socialist?
Ah,
it's not. I don't like to talk politically in this, but I'm just
yeah,
curious. Like,
basically,
in
yes.
in what
I think
tradition
so.
do you see
Yeah,
yourself?
well, a Christian socialist identity, I think I have it.
Right.
From my family side, I was born in a Christian family,
Yeah.
but in my young years, that's why I started as a youngster from began 20 already.
Yeah.
I see all kids from 20 now, they are doing other things than I did. I was analyzing the society and what is needed. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I made a study of the Netherlands should develop windmills because of the report of Rome about the development in our climate. So I was quite involved in these big themes at a rather young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that formed me in my thinking and what should be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dus ja,
Yeah. Yeah, and of course you're always a child of the ages. So
yes,
you're and of course the Netherlands is a very socialistic Christian
was
country.
big influences.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was influenced by that, especially.
Yeah. Nice to see that after so many years, such a project comes out with so much passion and
Oh
so
yes,
much knowledge.
let's keep the flame burning.
Yeah. Definitely, I agree. If people want to read more about this, they can buy this book. It's still available.
Yeah.
It's called Social Architecture by Johan de Kleuver.
I still have to think Kobo is a site
Yeah.
where you can all worldwide buy ebooks, because this is printed, but you can buy it in English in the ebook form.
I see. And then, of course, your work for Society 4.
Yeah, that's an whole other chapter.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think that is missing that we haven't touched upon that you think is important that we should still talk about?
Well, the most interesting thing about Society 4 is, in my opinion, that they try to connect all those big domains, because they are all interconnected, and our whole society is fragmented, also fragmented within one domain, let alone that there's a vision about an integral vision how things can only work if you combine all those perspectives and bring them together. So there's where my energy came from to join Society 4, because that's the vision. And so like the domains of finance, and we talked about banking, like living, about health, about producing good food. By our system on a macro level, most Western society has made us competitors on an individual level. You have to compete, and on the socials you have to be like a promoter of your own quality.
Right.
And what we have lost, and that's why I think the motto Back to the Future, promoting communal organization and networks, is it's far more natural for humans to live in a we form, because we are social animals. It's interesting if we see the blue zones over the earth where people get 100 plus, then most of the time there are characteristics alike on very different places on earth. That is communal living. That is growing your own food. So it can be biological food as well, of course. There's living an active life with your body, not sit for hours behind a desk. recently I changed my lifestyle because I have now, due to my age, a little bit freedom to choose what I want to do. And I lost without any diet like 5 kilos because I sit now less behind my desk and just doing other things. It's healthier. So all those things are interconnected. So the environment, the social aspect, the economic aspect, the political system, because if we have this communal living, there is where you learn to develop democratic behavior. Where do you learn it if you don't participate? And you're just building your own personal
Island.
Yes,
I would almost say it's for me it's not it's not a prerequisite to have that communal space because I value my own individuality. But I would say it as follows. I would say that it's your community is your first layer of protection. And so in the world that we've built, where we've broken up and we've broken down a lot of our communal structures, and in a let's say former socialistic, social democratic country as the Netherlands, we have broken down a lot of those institutions. We have broken down a lot of, and everything that is now left over is the individual things that are indeed, as you're saying, competing with each other, and that means that the individual factors, they have no coherence amongst each other. And once that we group together again in a form that fits us, because that is, I think, the most important way to do it, because you shouldn't go with a group that doesn't fit you. But once we can find that again, once we can find like an external layer in which everything forms together and it works again, then the individual can grow again, and then everybody benefits, and it doesn't even have to come from a socialistic idea. It can even be from a capitalistic idea, because once the people in my area they become coherent again, once the people they are more outgoing, they have more, they want to go outside more, they go and visit the shops, they buy more stuff, they go and talk together to each other, it all happens in a kind of synergy. And
it is an ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's beautifully put. Yes, it's a human ecosystem.
So that's I gave examples, of course, in the field where my heart lies with communal living and promoting these things. But you're quite right. It has all kinds of things, and my motivation is to get people together, and that can be in loosely coupled systems. Or loosely coupled individuals. And as soon if there's some form of coherence, that's a good way of saying it, people get to know each other and to exchange private things, and then they get a kind of tribe. There is where the wonder is happening, because this is this layer which matches the natural need of people in general. And that is needed now, because there's a lot of loneliness in our modern societies, and there's where people really get physically sick and ill, that with all kinds of problems, because it's not natural. And that's why I want to promote this on all kinds of things. It's absolutely not my way is the highway, especially for this kind of group. I say, pay attention to these laws within this form. No, my perspective is and interest is, I'm interested in much more broader perspective. How bring people together? How let them achieve common goals? And it can be loosely coupled. As soon as you have some kind of tribe, and within a tribe, there is the shared life happening. You eat together, you share stories with each other.
Yeah.
There's where the miracles happen. I want to add one thing. You mentioned it beautifully, and I forgot to mention that this layer of security.
Yes.
I mentioned that again. It's an example of our community, but it's so special. Sometimes in the apartments where people can live for like up to 4 years, sometimes we offer a place with someone who gets out of a terrible divorce. Sometimes because mostly the wife is beaten. And they are really terrified when they come in and putting locks on the door, etc.
Yeah.
Within a very short time, they feel safe when they enter our structure through the front door. Because they know this is my safe tribe. Everybody wants good for me. I know these people. That's one example. But sometimes we get visitors with really young children, like 2, 3 years old, and they gonna sit in our communal room, and we can see them the inner street. And sometimes these children are, especially when they get into a new environment, hanging on to their mom or dad. So many times we've seen that within 5 minutes, these children walk away. And the parents say, what is happening? I find this fascinating because what happens here? This child will always stay on the side of the parents, now walks away, doesn't know me, doesn't know the structure, walks away for 50 meters, there's a long inner street, just walks away, exploring. We're getting into the psychological perspective where you say what we call vibe. I think we as a social animal haven't lost sight of how we are really basically functioning on how our organism on all kinds of levels is interacting with what we call vibe, energy. Because I've seen this so many times, and it's so special.
Yeah.
And it's not logically explainable, except when you say, "Oh, of course, this is an energy field of people who have founded a tribe which aims for the good of all who come here, and people get influenced on a very basic level the moment they enter this field."
And that's so interesting because imagine, so I'm completely following what you're saying, but now imagine that you leave the front door unlocked.
Yeah.
That's a corruption.
The front door by us of the main structure is always closed.
Yes. So that means that if you unlock that, if you leave it open, let's say you leave the door open, that energy goes out.
I don't know how it works. Maybe the energy field will be intact, but it's unsafe because we have all those private spaces open.
Yeah, of course.
And some people can come in with bad motives.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like you can have that space.
Yes.
You can have that
Safe
community.
Space.
You can have that structure.
Yeah.
But you need security surrounding it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think is very important when we think about community. Is that okay? We have this group. We have this idea, and within this group there's private space, there's communal space, and there's space where we all work together. However, you still need, on the outside, you still need
a boundary,
protection. You need a boundary. You need, and that's often that's so foundational
Yeah.
that we sometimes even forget that that is the case.
Yeah, still, what we do, like several times a year, we open our doors with special events.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I think now more than 20 years ago, we said, oh, we're having now a small village within our bigger surrounding. We are happy together, but we should do something about our direct surroundings.
Yes.
Like it's like 200 apartment houses in our part of the city.
Yeah.
And we organized the table of 100, an Italian dinner, inviting maximum of 100 people,
Yeah.
dining together on the street like an Italian movie scene.
Right. Yeah.
And people loved it. And they say, well, if you love it, leave your email address.
Yeah.
And sometimes we will continue this in another farm.
Yeah.
Since then, and I'm always the cook 2 times a year for a communal table. People can come in, mostly for 30 people. And if someone moves in this neighborhood, there's always some neighbor say, if you want to get acquainted with some people, you have to give your email address to my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Go only 1 or twice, then you know some people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Since we've done that, people say our whole neighborhood has become more social.
Yeah.
More people stop and make a talk.
Yeah.
More people feel connected and feel safe.
Yeah.
And that is opening up. So that is in the bigger structure. I want that as a structural element in the basic layers of the building. Like really opening and getting your influence more out than within our little project. Still, we're doing what we can.
That's a fantastic example. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because that shows that, you know, that energy that we talked about first, that you know, that it can be intrusive,
Yeah.
but it can also be extrusive.
Yes.
So you can spread that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spread the light.
Yeah. Yeah. Johan, thank you so much for this conversation, for all the things that you've talked about,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for being here. And I wish you very well with the projects that you're gonna continue with.
Okay. I hope I will succeed in this bigger structure, but that's my dream at the moment.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure we will talk a lot more.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. If you like this episode and if you want to see more of Society Fourth, then make sure you're subscribed. Also, if you like this interview, please don't forget, we need that thumbs up. Write a comment down below because it helps out the algorithm, and we really love to engage with you as a community because you're the community of the paradigm shift. Also, lastly but not least, don't forget to visit our sponsors, organically.com and blueearthinnovations.com. Use the code paradigm shift at checkout. You're supporting great businesses, you're supporting your own health, and you're supporting the show. So with all of that said, we'll see you next week, and goodbye.